with a blood-stained knife. He was arrested, and 4 days later, after being detained under the Mental Health Act, Benjamin was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and then equipped others. These aren't just conversations faith leaders are learning to navigate. It's from Sky News, dated 1st of December 2025, by Shingi Marak. Benjamin Obinim's deeply spiritual family thought he was being plagued by demons when he killed his mother and seriously injured his father and sister in a stabbing attack. I was pleading with him not to kill me because he knows how much I love him. I was lying on the floor and he wasn't giving in. It's a miracle Joshua Obinim is still here to tell his story. Last August, the 64-year-old was left clinging to his life after being stabbed several times by his son Benjamin. Moments earlier, Benjamin had burst into the family home in Manchester and killed his mother, Alberta, stabbing her 16 to 17 times with a large kitchen knife. He also wounded his younger sister Bernice, who tried to barricade herself in her bedroom before jumping out of the window while trying to flee. Joshua woke up to the sound of screaming and tried to disarm his son. I saw my son outside the door of my daughter with a knife, so I asked what was going on. Usually he is someone who listens to me, Joshua says. I just said, "Give me the knife." I stretched forth my hand. I held the blade, and then he said, "Don't try it." Joshua ran outside to try and get help from his neighbors before Benjamin intercepted him. He just came and met me there, and then he cut my head, so blood was just gushing out. Then he went onto my belly. After pleading with his son, Joshua saw a neighbor come out of her home. She was shouting at him, "Stop, Ben, stop. Don't do that to your daddy." That was all I heard. Then I passed out. Police found Benjamin sitting in his car nearby with a blood-stained knife. He was arrested, and 4 days later, he was detained under the Mental Health Act. The events of that night were made even more tragic by their wider circumstances. Benjamin was a 22-year-old student. His father described him as the kind of son every parent would love to have, with a bright future ahead of him. He said Benjamin was calm, quiet, and academic. But in the weeks before the attack, his parents noticed his behavior started to change. He began experiencing hallucinations and a paranoid fear that he was being controlled by others. He said his mother and sister were witches who had implanted a device in his chest, and they were trying to kill him. The family, strong Christians and deeply spiritual, began praying for him together as a family. I never even thought it was a mental thing, says Joshua. I thought he was demonized, that the demons had come to attack him. He was seeing things and saying things, and sometimes I'll tell him what you are saying is not true. And he was praying a lot, and I was also praying with him. Sometimes I pray for him for long hours. On the day she was killed, his mother had even voiced concerns about his mental health at their church, but Benjamin never saw a doctor about the symptoms he was experiencing. During the attack, Joshua suffered multiple injuries to his head, face, neck, chest, abdomen, both hands, and his left leg. He was placed in an induced coma. When he woke, he was told his wife had died. Joshua's fervent faith helped him to come to terms with the moment. "I didn't scream, I didn't cry," he says. "If I remember, I said, 'All is well.' Immediately the Lord dropped his word in my heart." 1 Thessalonians 5:15. He says, "In all things give thanks to God, for that is the will in Christ Jesus." An elder at the family, Joshua is thankful to the hospital staff who treated him and ultimately grateful to God for his survival and Bernice's recovery. Bernice, who was 18 at the time of the attack, has needed plastic surgery and was left with what a court heard is significant long-term physical and psychological scarring. Joshua's testimony, underpinned by love and faith, is a powerful one, but ironically, that same sense of spirituality made it hard for Joshua to understand what was happening when Benjamin began having delusions. After being detained under the Mental Health Act, Benjamin was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Experts agree he was suffering from it at the time of the attack. Benjamin pleaded guilty to the manslaughter of his mother by reason of diminished responsibility and to wounding with intent of his father and sister. At sentencing, the judge ruled that Benjamin should continue to be detained at Ainsworth High Security Hospital indefinitely. The judge heard evidence from Dr. Ron Bennan, a consultant forensic psychiatrist who treated him. Dr. Bennan agreed with defense barrister Richard Littler that Benjamin's mental health disorder was the sole reason for the attack. The court also heard how Benjamin had no prior convictions and no history of substance misuse. He also said that Benjamin being told by family he did not have mental health issues was an important consideration. With time to reflect, Joshua now looks back on this with regret. He has never heard about schizophrenia before. And thought what was happening to Benjamin was purely spiritual. As surprising as it might be, this approach is not entirely uncommon. In some cultures, mental health is not always widely discussed or understood. It is seen as a spiritual issue, with prayer being the main part of any solution. Bishop Tony Parry, senior pastor at the New Testament Church of God in Leeds, says, believing in demonization doesn't require deep faith because it's in the Bible. If you read the Bible, you will see a number of occurrences where people were, as the Bible would describe it, filled with demons, and they were delivered by Jesus, says Bishop Parry. There is that belief in the supernatural. Even the Roman Catholic Church will have a view or understanding of that as well. It is part of the canopy that comes under Christian doctrine. He and other senior members have been given training as mental health first aiders, and he sees it as part of his responsibility to encourage people to not just pray, but also seek help for mental health issues. Mental illness is a reality in the world that we live in, and how it has been explained to me in my limited knowledge is that it's a spectrum, he says. Through our lifetime, we may move up and down that spectrum, but there are some who are really poorly and then need medical interventions. I think people like myself, people who are spiritual leaders, have a responsibility to equip themselves first and then equip others. These aren't just conversations faith leaders are learning to navigate. Mental health experts are increasingly having to find ways to understand and support people who come from more spiritual cultures. Dr. Gwen Ashhead is a consultant forensic psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, and a member of the Royal College of Psychiatrists Spirituality Special Interest Group. She says spirituality should be considered when people access mental health support. We pay a lot of attention to people's spiritual, religious, and cultural backgrounds because they have a big impact on how people talk about themselves, but also interpret their experiences. Dr. Adhead says, we are lucky now to have more culturally diverse workforce than we used to. But the other thing that we do is that we try and involve the community members wherever it's possible, and people have consented to that happening. If we are taking histories or exploring people's stories, then we might well consult with the appropriate religious experts, if you like, who can be able to tell us something about this. Schizophrenia is a severe mental illness that typically starts in late adolescence or early 20s and can persist across the lifespan. Although a proportion of people make a good recovery, another group of people can persist with quite severe persistent schizophrenia. The longer people are mentally unwell, the worse the outcome are. She adds, the vast majority of people who become severely mentally unwell pose a danger only to themselves and nobody else. Still recovering from his injuries, Joshua has shared his story in church, but he now wants his words to go beyond the closely knit Ghanaian community he comes from in Manchester. When asked what he'll say to other deeply spiritual people from minority backgrounds who have mentally ill family members, he says, we have to be open-minded. If I knew I would have taken the initiative, I would have done something about it. Praying for someone to get healed doesn't mean the person does not need medical attention. It's a regret. If I knew, I would have done both together. The house where the Obinems are now living is lined with pictures of the family in happier times. Framed photographs of Alberta take pride of place. Deeply missed, she was the linchpin who held the family together. She was a very good mother. She did everything possible for her children to be happy, says Joshua. Everywhere you go in my bedroom, the kitchen, living room, her memories come into you. Because when she's at home, it's like there is life at home. When she's not home, everyone goes to their rooms. But the moment she comes in, everyone comes out. Mommy is in. Now it's no more. It's difficult. Despite all he has lost, Joshua has a simple message for Benjamin, one of atonement, deeply linked to his faith. What I would say to him is that he should be able to forgive himself, and he should remember that we have not stopped loving him. We are forgiving him, so he should forgive himself. Be safe and be positive. Also, do not forget to visit our social media handles: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Bye for now, and see you in our next episode. Thank you.